You know, when I first met Ryan and Chris, they had a vision for the kind of company they wanted to build. We had 38 employees when I met them. And I said, well, okay, what are your non-negotiables? If you want me to set up a human resource platform, tell me what it is that you want. What are your values and your mission and vision? And Chris Kelly quickly said, I don't want any of that, Siobhan. And I said, well, what do you mean? And he said, all I want is for people to be able to answer the most important question every day the same. I said, well, what question is that? And he said, how was your day, honey? And I said, oh, okay. And he said, if our employees can't say great every day, we failed them.
This is Hospitality 1-to-1, conversations on the industry with your host, Chris Bennis.
Happy holidays from the Hospitality 1-to-1 podcast. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast on iTunes and Stitcher. You can also check us out on our Facebook page, which is facebook.com/hospitality1to1. We are on Twitter at hospitality1to1. We also post video versions of our podcast on YouTube. Just search for Hospitality 1-to-1. And of course, you can find us on our website, which is www.hospitality1to1.com. We want to hear from you. Is there someone who you think we should be talking to? Let us know. You can email me at chris@hospitality1to1.com. Joining us today is Siobhan O'Leary. Siobhan is the head of people at Convene, one of Forbes' best places to work. Convene is a workplace hospitality company that partners with landlords to run office buildings more like full-service hotels. Siobhan spent over 25 years as a human resource executive in the luxury hospitality field. She has worked with Hyatt, Four Seasons, the Carlyle, along with Rosewood Hotels and Resorts. There she gained international experience, capitalizing on various cultures to develop local leaders and their shared common corporate goals. And now, Siobhan O'Leary. Siobhan, thank you so much for taking time today to talk to us.
Thanks, Chris. It's great.
Now, Siobhan, you work with Convene. If you will, let's back up for a second. First, what is your role within Convene and what is Convene?
Sure. So my role is the head of people and culture, and Convene is a workplace hospitality company. We provide hospitality services in office buildings. We're partners with landlords, and our clients are 70% of Fortune 500 companies. So if you think of a hotel, we're the bottom three floors, so to speak, of a luxury hotel or a lifestyle hotel. So we provide amenities and services in office buildings to really shift how the world is working and influence that. And we're integrating work and home in the office space. So services, for example, we started out just providing meeting space. We do catering in the buildings. We might run a fitness center. We might have a concierge service to do community activities within a building. So we're really providing amenities in buildings to make offices more attractive to work in. And so it's shared workspace, but it's really about the work experience.
Now, where do you have office locations now?
So we started in New York 8 years ago, with one location, and we now have locations in Boston, Philadelphia, Washington, D.C. We're opening in L.A. and soon in Chicago. And we're always looking for new markets, potentially internationally in a couple of years.
Wow. So you really are looking to grow your footprint in the industry.
Absolutely.
Now, you talked about experience when you were speaking about the individual buildings, whether it be a fitness center, a concierge. If you would kind of explain what's the importance of an experience. I mean, many people go to work, they sit down at their cube or their desk or their office, they do their job. What's the importance of that experience in an office space?
Yeah, so great question. we've shifted over the last 10 to 15 years. If you remember, there was a time when big companies like IBM were encouraging people to work from home, and they would have a lot of their work community have flexibility to work from home or in the office. And people really don't always love working from home. People like to collaborate. So it shifted to come back into an office setting, but with flexible space. So the experience is important because more and more people they're not loyal to brands, they're loyal to experiences, and tenants in office buildings are the same way. If we create experiences, then companies will want to rent that space. So we become a real partner with the landlord by amenitizing their buildings, and we're a value add to be attractive to those companies to have flexible space or any space in those office buildings where they might have shrunk their footprint otherwise.
So it's what differentiates you from the other buildings in the area.
Yeah, but let's be clear. We don't. It's what differentiates our service.
Correct.
We're not the building owner or the landlord necessarily, but what differentiates our service is the experience we provide. And the experience comes through our employees and our employee culture, which is what you want to talk about and what I love talking about. And the culture that we created became the value proposition and really is what got us noticed by companies and potential landlord partners, because the experience was unexpected. When people would host a meeting with us, who thought that we would actually tap into their emotion, and it's all about how you make people feel at the end of the day. So by creating that, it was all through what people love to do, which is in hospitality, serve others. So we took that into the meeting space.
I'm so glad you brought that up. It's a great transition because you really have a great reputation for culture, as you talked about. In fact, Forbes has named you one of the great places to work. And that's very intentional. And so all your employees live that out. How does your team and your employees live it out day in and day out?
Great question. When I first met Ryan and Chris, they had a vision for the kind of company they wanted to build. We had 38 employees when I met them. And I said, well, okay, what are your non-negotiables? If you want me to set up a human resource platform, tell me what it is that you want. What are your values and your mission and vision? And Chris Kelly quickly said, I don't want any of that, Siobhan. And I said, well, what do you mean? And he said, all I want is for people to be able to answer the most important question every day the same. I said, well, what question is that? And he said, how was your day, honey? And I said, oh, okay. And he said, if our employees can't say great every day, we failed them. And it was such a wow moment for me. And this was the first time I met him. And I thought, for what I do, setting up people and culture or human resource systems and platforms, that was a gift. So that was the vision. And so that whatever we do has to be able to answer that question like that and support that philosophy. So that's how it started. And that's what is sort of the beacon, right? Are our employees saying great every day when they go home? And if not, what are we going to do to fix that? And look, we're not perfect, right? We certainly make mistakes, but with that premise in mind, it makes it really easy to live that values in the culture, because at the end of the day, it's who we are. From that, we evolved into, formal values, which, as you know, are GRIT, is the acronym for that, which is genuine, relentless integrity and teamwork. And I went through with Ryan and Chris and the executive team and the employees a year-long exercise to come up with what is really important to us as people. And what is really important, how does that translate into the organization and how we behave as an organization? Ryan and Chris had been working on their values and what was important to them prior to my arrival. But for a year, we really focused on honing in on what those behaviors were that we were going to hold ourselves accountable to be able to answer great to that question every day. And in doing that, we wanted to keep it simple so people could talk about it always and often and relate to it and live it. And so, that's where grit came from. And grit in and of itself, by definition of the word, plays into how we live. And it's just taken off. And sometimes Chris and I review that first meeting and we say, we can't believe how alive and well the values are. I mean, we focus on it so strongly, but we're just so happy that people really do live it, and they really are defenders of it. And people ask us, the employees ask us all the time, how are we going to grow and keep the culture? When we go out into the field and ask the employees, what are they most worried about? That's what they tell us. How are you going to grow and keep the culture? And so they're equally as concerned about it and passionate about it, and they own it. And so we, now have really started consciously and often saying, you're the defenders of it. We have to play offense and defense with our values and our culture, and they get it. So that's the philosophy. In a tangible way of living it, they are competencies on our performance reviews. They are competencies that we measure against in the interview process. We discuss how people are values aligned prior to what's their aptitude and their skill set. And that's at every level of the organization. We recently hired a COO, as I'm sure you know, in April. We're recruiting. We just hired a CIO, a VP of revenue, and we hire cooks and chefs. And the number one thing everyone asks first is, are they values aligned? And truly, that's what we look for first. We certainly wouldn't be talking to them if their resume didn't have the skill set we need. But we spend a lot of time on values alignment in the interview process. And it's just living it through talking about it and making it simple enough for people to be able to relate to at all levels in the organization.
I love what you said earlier, that question that Chris and you had talked about, that one singular question, how was your day, honey? And if they can't answer great, you failed. I wanted to, if you will, dissect that a little bit. What is the importance of the employee being able to answer great? How does that impact the client when all is said and done?
Yeah, so we don't want people to ever feel like they're coming to work. We want them to get up every day and want to be here. And so if they don't say great, that's not going to be the case. That's the first part of your question. I hope that doesn't sound, I mean that with the largest degree of humility, but I hope it doesn't sound condescending in any way. But that's truly what we want, as simple as it may sound. The client, if our employees love what they do, if they're true hospitality professionals, they're going to provide that experience for the client. And we have a real focus on treating our employees the way, giving them the same experience that we want to give our clients. And if we do an internal program, whether it's a training or an event, a party or a picnic or even collateral, it has to be client-facing quality. So would we invite our clients to our holiday party? If the answer to that is no, then it's not good enough for our employees. Would we invite our clients to a training that we do? And so that's the barometer. And in doing that, the employees, they create that same experience for our clients.
So in other words, it's almost the analogy of the front of the house looks fantastic, but the back of the house is in shambles. You want to make sure that the front of the house and the back of the house look equally presentable because you want to give the same respect to your employees that you're giving to your clients.
100%. And the world is, the world is completely transparent, right? Through social media and everything else. So it's not even up to us to do that. It's just the way people have to live. You have to live your life as if everybody has a window into it, because really they could at any moment. And not that we're living because of a threat, but we're living because we want to be true.
Now, you had talked before about the culture, and what makes it unique, of course, is how defined you do have your culture at Convene. And one of the things that I really enjoyed when I went to your website was the videos that speak to the culture, if you will. How do you see that benefiting future employees?
We get more comments on those videos. It's so funny, and it's fantastic at the same time. What I hear from the applicants and how it benefits them is it's certainly a marketing tool, right? But at the end, and the talent war is on. Like, we all know this, and particularly for hospitality professionals, there are more industries recruiting our hospitality trained people away from the hospitality industry because they want similar experiences in their workspace, whether it's retail, law firms, hospitals, medical offices. So with that in mind, we want our videos give a real insight into people that are shopping for jobs, and people are shopping for jobs. And so we hope we can put as much out there to let people know what it's like to work here. And honestly, how great it is to the team that we work with is phenomenal. So the more we can talk about it, and just like any other research someone does on a company, whether that's their financials or what their client base is, we want them to know, what's expected of them and what they can expect from us, more importantly, as an employer. And, if that works for you, then great, come on. I think it benefits the applicant because they really get some information, and they really get a sense of who we are. And then, they can ask questions and hold us accountable to that as an employer.
Great stuff. You brought up a really interesting statement at the start of your answer to that question, and I wanted to kind of walk it back a little bit. You said that other industries, whether it be retail, it doesn't matter really, look to pull from the hospitality industry, the people who've come from a hospitality background. And I wanted to ask, why do you think that is? Why do you think there's such a demand for people who have had hospitality in their background?
Because people in hospitality are, innately always building relationships and creating experiences. And that's what the guest requires, right? The guest requires, when they go to particularly a luxury hotel or a lifestyle hotel, they're not going there just to put a head in a bed. They're going there for the experience. They want somebody to use their name. They want to walk out feeling great, either feeling important, feeling at home, whatever they want. That's what hospitality people are trained to do. And more industries are realizing the value of the loyalty is through the experience, not even the relationships anymore. The relationships really, they foster the experience, and they might be, they're a close second, but people are loyal to experiences. And that's their differentiator as a business. And you see it in hospitals all the time. It's amazing the competition in the medical field. Like, who knew that medicine would be a competitive market? Who knew that 10 years ago or 15 years ago? And if there's competition, then you have to differentiate yourself to the customer, and it's how the customer feels at the end of the day. Even where we go get coffee, it's about how we feel when we walk in there. So that's why they're recruiting Way Hospitality people, because they're trained to do that. And, they're attractive to hospitality talent because of the hours are different. An hour, not necessarily in a hospital or a medical office, but maybe in law firms or in a retail setting. Retail is, as we know, is an interesting inflection point because of online sales and buying everything online. And if you go into any sporting goods, Nike, Adidas stores, it's not about the product, it's about the experience that you're walking into. It's an over-the-top build-out design, so you want to go there. And so that experience is the first aha when you walk in, and then how you feel and how those people made you feel.
That is absolutely fascinating. Now, if we could for a moment, let's look at your background if we can, because you have a background in luxury hotels. And how does that background benefit the culture at Convene?
Chris, I think it's probably similar to what I've been talking about in that in the luxury end, it is all about how you make people feel. And so with that, when I joined Convene, I was trying to understand the business model, and it was clear to me that if we were going to have a differentiator in the meeting space, it would have to be the same relationships and experiences in our market. And to do that, I did what I just told you retail people are doing, and I started to talk to some people I knew in the luxury hospitality market to see if they wanted to join us. So I think that philosophy that we have of serving, creating employee experiences in the front, in the back of the house, the same, is something that I believe has worked for us here at Convene. And that philosophy of treating the employee the way you would treat the guest or the way you want them to treat the guest, and that living that philosophy that is alive and well in the luxury market is one that served us well here at Convene.
Your background, again, is very impressive, and I see it has helped shape the culture over at Convene. So, again, a tremendous background.
Thanks. What I think, one of the things I'm so grateful for at Convene is that we actually get to do the things that we do in the luxury hospitality business, but we can't do them at the same magnitude we're able to execute on them or build them out here at Convene. And, I think it's the commitment from the top down to our values and the real focus that we all have on values. We have that in the luxury market, but for whatever reason, I feel it so much more alive, and I'm grateful for that every day.
That's terrific. Now, if we can, let's talk about GRIT, because you talked about the GRIT acronym earlier on, but I kind of want to walk that back if we can for a second here. Putting it into play, I guess, first of all, how do you see that playing into hiring? And I guess if we could kind of even dig deeper into that, when you're in the interview process, do you ask for something specific? Or I guess the better way to look at it, can you tell in the interview process if they hit these values?
Absolutely. We use these, again, when we're hiring anyone into the organization. And they're on the scorecard, so to speak, on the interview scorecard. They're one of the competencies we rate against. So each value, and we ask open-ended questions, empowering questions, behavior-based questions to identify how they would be values aligned. And for example, if a manager says they want to hire someone, and we say, tell us about how you found out they're a team player, and they'll give examples through the interview of something the candidate may have said that indicated they led a team or made decisions based on that. The same behavior-based questions that we would ask for any other reason, we just target them and ask it around our values.
So you have some clear metrics that you're able to utilize to tell if this person's going to hit those values, hit the mark or not.
Right.
That's terrific. Now, as we begin to wrap up today, I always like to have some takeaways, if you will. You've had some proven success. You've got a great culture. You've really focused on the values. You really have showcased the importance of an employer brand. If we could impart some wisdom to any business, large or small, to help better their employer brand, and I guess even more to the point, to become the employer of choice, if you will. Any tips or takeaways that we can give to people?
I would have to say that it really is about whatever's important in the non-negotiables for that company. So whatever your company values are, and, are they truly alive? Why are they the values, and how can you stay true to those, and how can you live them? At the end of the day, if there's a values conflict between a person and the organization, they're never going to be successful, right? They don't have the same intention or the same things that are important to them to succeed. So I would definitely, say that values alignment, as simple as it may sound, is what drives the entire employee experience. And the other thing I would say is, really, how are you creating an employee experience? Because just as your customers are loyal to you because of how you make them feel, the whole way to retain talent is to create an experience for them and a journey for them that they feel like they can drive and grow with. And that's what we've done from a leadership development perspective here. And we've done it through our value system and through our coach-centric leadership approach. And I think those are two things that will definitely lend themselves to being employer of choice.
What terrific advice, Siobhan. Thank you very much. And again, I want to thank you for taking time to talk to us today. Before we let you go, how can people get a hold of Convene or get a hold of you?
Sure. Convene.com, go to our website, go to our culture page, and they can certainly see what jobs we have open and how to get in touch with us. So my email is SOleary@Convene, and I'm happy to connect with anyone. And, we're hiring, we have a high growth strategy, and we're looking for some really great, we call them pearls, to join the organization.
That is terrific. And we will make sure we put down the link information both for the website and your email address up on our hospitality1to1.com website. Siobhan, thank you for your time today. I appreciate it. And again, continued success.
Thanks so much, Chris, for reaching out.
Have a great day. Thanks for listening to the Hospitality 1-to-1 podcast. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast on iTunes and Stitcher. You can also check us out on our Facebook page, which is facebook.com/Hospitality 1-to-1. We're on Twitter @Hospitality 1-to-1. We also post video versions of our podcast on YouTube. Just search for Hospitality 1-to-1. And of course, you can find us on our website, which is www.hospitality1to1.com.